Hey guys, before we get started on today's episode, we have a little announcement on the schedule. So after today's episode airs, we're going to switch over to a bi-weekly schedule.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of polling both internally and externally and determined that by switching to a bi-weekly format, it also gives us more time to promote each episode. But not only that, it gives you guys, the listeners, more time to consume them. There are a ton of podcasts out there. I know it's hard for me to keep up on the weekly format, so I can only imagine what you guys are doing as well.
Yeah, so like we said at the end of every podcast in the past, we appreciate all of you guys listening and tuning into the videos. We look forward to this bi-weekly schedule and providing the best guest possible.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
So, and along those lines, providing you with the best guests, we have a special one for you this week. Without further ado, please welcome the Ohio State Offensive Coordinator, Mr. Brian Hartline. Like I just mentioned in the intro, we are here with the one and only Mr. Brian Hartline. Sir, thanks for making the drive all the way over here to come check it out.
Glad to do it. The shop's great.
Yeah, we just spent last half hour or so walking around, giving the tour. So we're over at the Hebron location today, those of you that aren't watching the video. And we're actually standing by the 10-point crossbows, which we'll get into here in a minute because that's kind of the primary connection for us there. But for those people that don't know Brian, go ahead and let's introduce yourself. Kind of talk about where you're from, what you do, and we'll get into that.
So I'm from Canton, Ohio.
Yep.
Went to high school at Glen Oak High School. Played football for Ohio State. Played up in the NFL for a little bit. Came back, became a coach. That's its own little story. But, showed back up to Ohio State, haven't left, and now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
Isn't that awesome, man?
Yeah,
awesome. Think about Brian in like 2007
No.
when you're like halfway through. No, but just think about it for a second.
I know.
So,
I know.
Would you ever think that you'd be in the position that you are in today back then? Did you see yourself going that route?
Never thought I'd be a coach. I would say 2007. I mean, that's when I was just figuring out that, there's Anthony Gonzalez, there's, Ted Ginn, and, Santonio Holmes just left, and Roy Hall. And so, I'm kind of looking around, and then all the goals actually I start realizing they could be a reality. When you're a little kid, you're kind of you don't want to be an NFL football player, but you don't know what that means.
Oh, sure.
What it entitles, and you get an opportunity to go to Ohio State, and then you show up with like-minded individuals and those with similar goals, and you're like, man, if he's doing it, why can't I?
Oh, for sure.
Kind of takes off from there.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Let's get into I want to get into the younger Brian ages. So back in the high school time. So I told you we're actually a year apart. We share the same birthday.
Yep.
So he's exactly a year older than me.
That's cool.
I thought that was pretty interesting. I was doing some thank God for Wikipedia these days, right? I can do all the research I need, right?
I hope it's right.
Yeah, we should double check that. No, it seemed pretty good. But let's get back into Northeast Ohio guy, which is super pop. I would argue to say that Brian's probably the most beloved person from Northeast Ohio. I got my LeBrons on today, but
wow.
I don't know.
That's powerful. I mean, I remember watching LeBron in high school.
Yeah, dude.
He was, 2 years older than me, and I believe it's 2.
Yeah.
Or 1, whatever it is.
Yeah, he's 3.
Yeah. So, but his friends in high school at St. V's were our friends. I mean, some of those guys knew some of the girls we were with, and those cliques and all that, So we had mutual friends, and we'd go watch. I remember going up to Akron University and watching him in high school, and, and frankly – not to get long-winded, but then, he was in Cleveland and then went to Miami. When he went to Miami, I got drafted to Miami, and then when he came back to Cleveland, I came back to Cleveland. It's kind of like it was a weird thing, but it was awesome having him down for the Notre Dame game.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, reconnecting. And we've been acquaintances, but I don't know. I think LeBron still gets that tag.
He still gets that tag.
I'd say so.
Well, LeBron isn't the coach for Ohio State.
Yeah, I know.
So you know how
care.
that. I'm just messing. No, I mean he's done. I'm preaching to the choir here, but he's done great things for not only this state but for the university as well, and his connections with the university.
He's the best, man. I mean, he actually He hasn't been celebrated enough, in my opinion. So,
I don't think so either.
I mean, to be 18 years old and take off the way he did, and I don't know. You show me a bad article. On that guy.
Oh yeah. I mean,
incredible.
How many guys? I mean, not to get into a LeBron podcast,
no
but
doubt.
Think of how long he's been in the league and how much you don't see him, Ron Artest, getting in a fight, or you don't see him doing any of this stuff, right? He's just always been the constant professional, right?
Awesome.
But the other thing that a lot of people, and this is on Wikipedia, a lot of people don't know, but Brian was a state champ in track and field.
Oh yeah, that was probably not my first passion, but that was a big part of my story. chasing my dream to go to Ohio State, not specializing in one sport.
Yeah.
Doing multiple sports, being in Ohio, doing everything you can for the school, running track, running indoor track, playing football. But track was really where I found my early success individually.
Is it really cool? Yeah,
Yep.
so I'm glad you said that too. The multi-sport athlete,
Yep.
right?
Huge.
I'm sure you deal with that a lot right now.
Yeah, it's a dying thing, actually. The more and more, I wish guys would get back to it. There's a narrative out there that you got to focus on one sport to be the best at it. That is not true, especially with the lack of, spring ball in Ohio and other states. It's a whole other conversation with states providing spring ball and some. We don't have that in Ohio. So if you're sitting around just training, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of kids. One of my good friends, her son is a really good wrestler. He's in elementary school, so I always tell her, like, listen, it doesn't matter until he's in high school yet.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, they're traveling to Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee for all these meets and stuff, and it's like, let him play some ball. Like, I mean, and she does, but, man, it's just like there's a lot of kids that with the AAU stuff and just, only doing basketball or I'm only doing baseball. It's like, try everything because you don't know.
And we even have that comment. We make those comments like, oh, he was just he didn't play multiple sports.
Yeah.
Did he specialize? Yes. You can tell why because, there's other traits and other skills you develop in other sports. If you just play basketball all the time, it's a small area space game. Like you should probably run track if you want to be a receiver. If you're just a basketball player, that's part of it. And not saying that doesn't still work out, but it's amazing. It's like, get out, play tag, be great at tag. Like it's okay because that's like being a ball carrier and avoiding people. It's amazing how many people now like run into each other. It's like, guys, spatial awareness, different sports provide. It's amazing. Actually, you can kind of see it. So play sports, play multiple sports, have multiple coaches, deal with multiple personalities. That's the key to life.
I love it.
Yeah.
What events did you focus on in track?
I was a hurdler.
Okay.
So I used to run as fast as I could with an object that wouldn't move, which is probably not the smartest thing. But, I found I remember being young in my getting into track, high school track. I was pretty good in middle school, but I would run like the 800-meter and the 400-meter a little bit longer because I had that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
I had a still high jump in middle school. But then I got to high school, and the hurdler coach at the time, became a really good friend of mine, and we're really tight to this day. I remember looking at my mom and like, hey, I think he'd be a great hurdler. He's high-hipped. He's got the right mentality. You got to be tough because you're running as fast as you can, and that hurdle ain't moving.
Yeah.
And she's like, you sure? Are you really sure about that? He goes, no, I'm telling you. So I go out and run my first indoor track race, and you have 5 hurdles. I hit 6. I took them all out. Like every single one of my lane, the one next to my lane. Like she's like, Chad, you sure about this? He's like, just go with it. Then that spring I was like a finalist in the 300 hurdles, which is a longer one.
Sure.
By my sophomore year, I was a finalist in both the 110s and 300s, and then in my senior year, I won some titles in state meets. So I would say he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. The coach was right, parents, believe it or not. The coach was right.
I think everyone does. Like when you're in middle school, you get that first opportunity to be in track, right? Yep. I always wanted to be a pole vaulter, and I think I did it I cleared like maybe 8 feet one time. Like, this is not for me.
Yep. And that's nothing against it, Jordan, but like the biggest thing is like you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And like that's the most uncomfortable part. Like amazing now, back in the day it was best football players in Ohio would run track.
Yeah.
That's just who are the best football players? I don't know. Give me the track times, and then you could find them. And now there's like an ego thing there that like, listen, you're gonna show up and you may be this like, oh, I did AAU and I've been traveling football and everyone knows my name. But then you show up to track practice, you ain't winning nothing.
Yeah, no.
Well, it's humbling. You gotta like understand it's the best thing for me. Challenging is the best thing for me. Being fifth is the best thing for me. Not just always operating in my comfort zone. So. That's the reality of the sport, and but it's its purest form. There's no opinions. Yeah. Stopwatches and tape measures don't lie. I'm fast. Really? Okay, go run.
Yeah.
And that's like the art of being a kid when you're on your recess and you're like, let's go race. Well, now it's real. Let's go. So I loved it back then. I still do to this day, actually.
What was the funny thing? Was it Usain Bolt and Denard Robertson? Was it Denard? Didn't he say that he was going to like beat him on the field or something like that?
I forget.
Or who was that?
I mean, would it be Chris Johnson maybe, or like one of those fast guys, right?
Oh, dude.
Was it Denard? I don't know. I'm not sure who that was.
I can't remember. It was a football player said that they would beat Usain Bolt on the field. I'm like,
that's my point.
Yeah.
Right?
To your point though, like if you want to be a good if you want to be a good receiver, and I mean you know this more than anybody, if you want to be a good receiver, I feel like track, again, it's a purest form, right? I mean. You can be so much more. You learn to be so much more efficient with your movement.
100%. That's what it's all about, and that's really what translates into receiver play. And that's really like how I coach receivers. Like everyone takes the same amount of steps, 7-step post. Like who does it the cleanest, the fastest, the most efficient? I mean, that's hurdles. You know, if you run a hurdle race in the 110s, it's 8 to 1, 3 in between, 5 off the back. Everyone runs the same amount of steps. How high you're off the hurdle, your hang time, like all those things. You don't jump over hurdles. You step over hurdles. Like the efficiency there. Is where the edges are found, and I feel that same way when it translates to football. So, but to your also the other point, if you just run track, you're probably going to be a stiff athlete.
Sure,
you better play some basketball. Just because if not, it's just linear. Yeah, it's just linear. So all that plays a part.
That's awesome. Yep. So let's get back into the high school stuff. So, coming out of track, state champ, obviously good at football. I mean. Let's get through the recruiting process. So, I mean, you're a recruiter now.
Yep.
So, I mean, you do everything now. But basically, how did that process work from the time that you were started recruiting? Like, when did you start getting looks?
Yep.
You know, what kind of offers did you have? That kind of stuff.
So this all ties together. This is great. So my head coach Jack Rose at the time, well known, spent some time in college, but he was a prominent figure in high school football in Ohio, and. I think he was probably singing my praises a little bit as I was kind of growing up, the impact he had, the connections he had, and track. So I remember playing freshman football. I was not on JV or any of those things. I wasn't playing varsity for sure. And I'm sure he was singing my praises a little bit in that fall. We were pretty good as a freshman team. I was playing quarterback. And then I ran track that spring. Like I said, I finaled in the 300 hurdles that spring. Well, that sophomore year, I had tickets to go to Ohio State games.
Okay.
I didn't play JV. I didn't play varsity. I think the correlation between his word of mouth and then me running in the spring was impactful. So that fall came around. My sophomore year, and I found myself behind a bunch of people. And they were like, not starting quarterback as a sophomore.
Yeah.
I'm 160 pounds. I'm not playing receiver. I'm not. At one point, I started carrying the football. I was the running back. And I remember going against some of these teams that were good teams, and I didn't care, but they knew, and so I didn't play almost anything my sophomore year, and then that spring again, I was a finalist in the 110s and the 300 hurdles, so it's all building, and I'm sure again the coach was like, hey, just you'll see kind of thing, and then my junior year, again playing quarterback until my brother was ready. My brother ended up playing at Kentucky.
Yeah.
I moved to receiver, and I did pretty well. And I did some good things. There was a lot of hype coming out of it, anyways. And then by the time I got to spring, I was really kicking tail in track, and I was that was kind of everyone knew that. Well, then after that season, I went to Ohio State's camp, and this whole time we were kind of communicating, and I went to Ohio State football camp the summer before my senior year. And I remember them saying, "Oh no, we know who you are. You don't need to come for a week." At that time, you could have week-long camps.
Okay.
And I'd just come to our senior day and have our elite camp, whatever they said. I was like, all right. I talked to my mom and my dad, and they were like, I was like, man, screw it. Like they're telling me I don't have an offer, but to just come to a one day, I'm like, I'm going to go the whole week.
Yeah.
Like they're going to see me for a week, and if they don't want to see me after that, then
that's not.
I'm removing all doubt. That's my goal. So I went there for a week, stayed in the dorm, stayed for a week. I remember Malcolm Jenkins showing up on the senior day, and some other DBs were showing up.
Yeah.
And we were all competing. We were working. By the end of that week, I had an offer. So that was the way I went about it. That's probably a dying track this day and age. But I got my offer then, and then I decided if I want to go to Ohio State, football check, academics check.
Yep.
2 hours away.
Yep. Check.
Let's be a Buckeye. So.
Did you always want to be a Buckeye?
I didn't grow up a college fan. I grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yep.
And I knew nothing about college football. I knew that Ohio State, you can win championships. If I got a degree from there, I could get any job in the state. That was good enough for me. And I knew I'd be competing with some of the best, the best coaches and best players in the room. It was as simple as that. I didn't really overcomplicate it. And then when I showed up, like I said, I knew Teddy and I knew some of the guys. But when I got into the room, I was like, oh, man, let's go. I can do all this.
That's awesome. That's
so.
awesome. It's a completely different story than Jake, too. So it shows that, like, you can have – because Jake Ballard was telling us about his recruiting experience.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan offered him first.
Was he a big recruit coming out?
I think he said 4.
Okay.
He said 4. He's like, not that matters. He's like a 5-star guy's bomb out all the time, right? But that Lloyd Carr offered him first.
Gotcha.
And they were like, Tress was like, no, we can't have that.
Yep.
But I'm glad you said the camp stuff too, because I think the camp stuff is just. I saw some pictures. There was like a lift or something here recently over at the Woody.
Yeah, they did like a camp for the coaches. Recently. Yeah,
like a
Coach Mariotti put on like a strength and conditioning clinic.
So because I think Schlegel was posting
part
that,
of it.
Yeah, of course he would. But yeah, and obviously Ohio State offers all those camps. So you get to Ohio State, you got some of the baddest guys in the room. I was looking that time frame, like when you and I were in college, like I don't really recall a lot of Ohio State. I don't have a lot of Ohio State memories like I do now. Looking back, I can see 2010, game at home or whatever trail. But that time frame when I was in college, I didn't really pay much attention to what was going on at Ohio State. I just didn't have time.
Yep.
So I was looking through. I was like, man, what was some memorable moments that you have in terms of like your time at Ohio State? And there's some great catches and stuff in there, but I think you know where I'm getting ready to get at this. There was one particular hit that I think put you on the map. There was it NIU or is it Cincinnati game?
It was IU.
IU.
Indiana. Yeah. And special teams.
Yeah.
It was kickoff. I loved kickoff. So kickoff for me was early on was like actually when I got to the NFL, I did the same thing. I like asked for it. Like I love being the number 2 and bend the corner and like trying to beat the guy, trying to block me, with speed and the way he runs and I'm blind and I try to show up before he's ready. The whole thing, the whole mindset and track, it's all coming back to me. So I'm like efficiency, shaving angles, all that. That's route running. But so I remember doing that. I remember all week I kept hearing about Tyler Thigpen, and he became my teammate actually in Miami. So like. It's funny, we still talk about it. But, like, all week, he was like the top returner in the country.
Yep.
We got to get this guy on the ground, all those kind of things. I just got tired of it. I was a redshirt freshman. It was my second year.
Yep.
I redshirted my first year. I didn't play at Ohio State. And at that point, you couldn't play 4 games. Either if you played at all, you were out.
Yep.
So I remember that. I came from the field. I shaved the edge. The guy was getting vertical up the boundary hash. And I just didn't stop at all. I just tried to run through him. And and it was good. I mean, it was like, at that point, we were giving out, like, hits of the week and things like that. Jack Tatum hit of the week, and I got that. But it's true. In my opinion, football players find ways to make plays regardless of job description, right? And that's what good players do.
Yeah.
And special teams. And you'll see – to this day, the track record of Zeke Elliott and Chris Olave, I'm just throwing some at that did the same thing.
Yep, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah,
because that was my next point.
Yep.
My second Michigan game was 18, which, as you know, was Chris's come-out game, and he's making plays, special teams.
Yep.
Block punts,
then feeds into 2 touchdowns on offense.
Yep.
But he was doing that, like you're saying. I mean, that's real, and we still carry that to this day.
Yeah.
But it's real. I mean, as much as you don't. Now, there's some that don't do that. Sure, that's just that's someone's path. But there's many more stories of being selfless, being on special teams, executing at a high level, and then it translating into great offense and defensive
and
careers.
Great teammate. Yeah, exactly. The other one comes to mind too is the fake onside kick with Chris.
Yep.
That was like dime.
But you can't do that if he's not on kickoff.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has been.
Yeah.
And so that all plays a part.
That's awesome, man. So you came in to Ohio State. You would have came in the 06 year?
05.
05.
Yep.
Okay. So you would have came in the fall of 05.
Yep.
Redshirted that year.
Yep.
I was looking back. I didn't realize how many quarterbacks you actually played with.
Yep. Troy, Todd Beckman, and Terrell Pryor.
And I think you even had Zwick in there for a couple that I saw.
He may have when him and Troy were competing a little bit. But I don't think I played that year. That would have been into the 05 year,
okay,
if I'm not mistaken. And then when Troy won that job, he was there for 2. And then in the 06 year, he won the Heisman.
Yeah.
Fun fact, his first completion of that season was to myself.
Which
is a rare I mean, the funny thing is, the reason why I said that is because I actually saw that like on a trivial question somewhere. Like I don't know if it wasn't like I think it was like the varsity club or something like that. So anyways.
I love it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think I saw that, and because you know, it's funny. You can go to YouTube and pull up, name your athlete, right, and you can pull up any type of highlight reel. And I think I saw that play that you were talking about. It's like the first completion of the year.
And Troy to this day is still one of the best, quarterbacks that year he put together, and the way he operated and the way he led still resonates with me, now. So,
and
fun fact.
I didn't get to ask Jake this, and I kind of regret not asking it because he was in there too with you, obviously. But looking back at your time at Ohio State as a player, what has been probably that defining moment, or that when you close your eyes and you think about your time in college, what's that one moment or that one game that resonates to you? Because I didn't ask him about the 06 game, and I should have.
Yep, the 06 game.
I mean, as a redshirt freshman that year, right?
Yep, played a little bit, not a lot.
Yeah.
I remember that environment. I remember that was the first time seeing them in our stadium. I remember like that whole thing. I remember the environment. I remember seeing those putrid colors and them coming in. Like I remember all that and the way it made me felt. Because again, I was a Cowboys fan. I was an NFL fan. I didn't grow up with that. So like I didn't know. Like and to this day, that still was the reality of it. Like I was an Ohio kid. Everyone's like, "Oh, Ohio kids don't." No, they still don't always know. But sometimes, people that are from Texas that grew up Buckeye fans, they already know before the Ohio kid.
Yeah,
so you don't know that, and I just remember that. So all that was real. I remember having two touchdowns against them my last year in 2008. One coming from Todd Beckman, who was replaced with Terrell Pryor earlier in the year. So that was meaningful. So a couple of those stick out to me. But 4 Big Ten championships. Four wins against the team up north. Those are the main things I probably carry with me.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
That's awesome. So then, let's say you would be 09. It would be 4th round?
Yep, 4th round, spring of 09.
Spring of 09.
Yep.
Moved down to Miami. I'm sure that you probably could have picked the worst place to play,
Yeah,
right?
It was like there's Columbus and then Miami. From Canton to Columbus to Miami, there was like some hopping there, to say the least. Definitely bigger going from Canton to Columbus now than it was then.
For sure.
Columbus is rocking. Would have helped me if I could have gone now to Miami, but nonetheless, that was a heck of a chapter.
What was the biggest, learning curve, if you will, from coming from Ohio State and then getting into the league? Because I think what you played with, was it Tannehill?
Oh yeah, I played with a good amount of them, but yes, Tannehill being the
Isn't it wild that he's still doing great, man?
I know, but he handles his business. He's a pro's pro.
Yeah.
People probably like being around him, and all the variables are going his way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest, learning curve, if you will, from going to the, getting into the league?
I would say it would be the calendar from 365, and how to be a pro, how to work in the off season, no one holding your hand. That being said, you have the ability to really separate yourself from your peers because there's a lot that won't. So if you do, you can really separate yourself.
Yeah.
So opportunities everywhere. Everyone's good.
Yeah.
Those edges you were finding in hurdles in the 110s and the 300s, you're trying to find still.
Yeah.
Because every little edge matters, and I think that's really important. I think that longevity. Once you get to that point, I think into that, it's not about how you came in. No one cares.
Yeah.
Care if you're a first round pick, whatever. The GM might a little, but
sure.
Outside of that, you're earning your keep. And
I mean, the prime example of that's a GOAT, right? Brady comes in, 7th round. Now look at him. Like,
it's true.
Yeah, and it's all about the work that you're putting in, right?
I mean, when you say winning is the most important thing, there's no doubt. I mean, it is a high stakes poker game, and it's pretty real.
I'm always interested. I never really had anyone to talk to about this, but you look at what they said about Urban and his time at Jacksonville, right? And you come from this ultimate competitiveness. You're winning all the time. You can't hardly stand to lose. Like, you didn't lose very many games in your tenure either. Like, how was it the transition to knowing that, hey, I may drop 7 or 8 games, if not more, in the league?
I think you never wanted to lose in college because you were trying to reach the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
The difference in the NFL is you can still lose some games in the NFL and still reach your ultimate goal. Your first goal is always to be, make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then anything can happen from there. So as long as you're I really wasn't in any seasons where by week 9, 7 to go, we were out because you're 2-7 like that. I didn't really experience that. I had every year I was there. We were always into the last game or two, which is a blessing, frankly. There's nothing like even that last game where it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very uncomfortable, and I can't imagine having 3 or 4 of those.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So that's the difference. I mean, I think you hate to lose, but you hate to lose based on what it's usually your goals and your team goals and all the work that's been put in. So those are still attainable.
Well, and the other thing to think about too, I think, is you're still playing to earn a paycheck. So whether you're losing or winning, do you still have to perform and show up?
So yes, there's still that inner conversation of,
you're putting on film.
Yeah, you're still putting on film, not necessarily just for anybody, because if you're not winning, they're looking to make enhancements and improvements. And that's just the reality. And you want to be a part of the change. You want to be the part of the dead weight in their eyes. So, it is tough. Don't get me wrong, but I think that any pro understands what that is. And if you're a true competitor, you still want to win, every game. And Detroit had a great example of that this year, right?
Yeah, dude, no joke.
Yeah, when they were out 4:00, they played at 4:30, and whether they knew or not, they played their tails off, and I believe they still won, right?
Yeah,
So that was a good representation of that. But
that's awesome.
Yep, good times.
This leads me to my next point. So that last year you came to Cleveland. By the time this airs, this might be a little bit old news, but yeah, you had a pretty fun weekend this weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So that was pretty cool. How about getting that last year, coming back home, playing for the hometown team, if you will?
Yep, it was awesome. I wish we would have won more. I would say that I have my opinions. I'm going to keep them to myself.
That would have been what, 15?
Yeah, 15.
Yeah,
and very passionate. Love the fan base. Because it resembles a lot of what we do here in Columbus.
For sure.
So a lot of love for that. But I wish that things could have gone differently. We're kind of going through some transitions between GMs and head coaches and all that. And anytime you're, part of those, that can be uncomfortable, and you can definitely be, the extra weight, like they say.
Yeah.
So it was a year here. And then, frankly, going through my path, my biggest thing, and talking back, I don't have very many regrets ever in sports. I actually don't have any. But if I had to pick one, I would have said I wish I would have just kind of held on a little longer, after Cleveland and moving from Miami. And I got a little fed up with the sport.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, between poor coaching and just it's amazing in the pros. And I'm sure you guys know, it's like the amount of times you have to play the people game.
Yeah.
They got to like you. You're playing the personalities. It just gets tiring. Mm-hmm. And I just got to the point where I got done playing the, get these guys to like me game. And, earning it every year, where sometimes when you're, in a situation where organization's winning and you got a good quarterback and it's all flowing, it's not as stressful.
Sure.
Everyone's kind of there and you're going and you're progressing and you're adding a piece or two. Not when you're like, backs against the wall all the time. And it wears you out. It does as a player. And I got worn out. And I'm like, listen, I'm good. We're out of here. We have our place in Columbus. Let's go back. I think football is it for me. I'm going to figure out what's next. And lo and behold, I didn't know what was 6 months later was going to be happening.
Yeah. So excuse me. So that leads you into the time at Columbus. But before we get there, how do I want to do this? Because there's a transition period where we can talk about some hunting. What we'll do, we'll talk about your time in Columbus, and then we'll focus on the hunting side, which will take us back to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, with your off time. So then you ended up you moved back to Columbus.
Yep.
Become a staff member at Ohio State. What was the first gig? Was just
wide
receivers intern?
No, just an intern.
Okay.
My brother was there, and I kind of got in the building, running around on scout team, and and I think between Coach Schiano, the DC at the time, and Coach Meyer, they kind of got wind of me just being in the building and talking to some guys. That's just how I was when I was a player. I didn't think much of it, but I think it sounded like Coach Schiano was like, "Hey, you should think about hiring Brian," kind of thing, and Coach Meyer proposed that to me, and I was like, "No way!" I'm like, "Nope, no shot, bro."
Oh, you didn't want to?
No. Like I said, I was done with the sport.
Yeah.
I was mad at the sport. I had a lot of, off feelings to it. I get it, and other players, when I say that, they get that because that's real.
Yeah.
And so I was done. I was better. I was bigger than football. I'm going to do something else. I'm out of sports. I'm good. Well, and then that was probably in December. Come springtime, February, March, I kind of got reconnected with Coach Meyer, and he said proposed it again. And I think at that point I kind of got to recharge my batteries a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's do it. And it got to the point where when I went to start it, it was good through spring. I told him, hey, man, I loved it. Coach Terry McLaurin and Paris, Johnny Dixon, and this Austin Mack and Ben Vick.
So what was
great
that,
personality.
What was that first year, 17?
17. So
okay.
I didn't play. My first full-on playing was 16. I started coaching spring at 17. And so I was out for like 6 months. Yeah. And I decided that at that point, I fell in love.
Yeah.
Coach Meyer, I don't know what I'm in. It's been 2 weeks. What do you think, Hart? I love it, Coach. I'm going to stay. Let's close this year out, and then we'll come back and talk about it come January 1 of 2018 and see where that goes. That's really how it started.
Hey everyone, we need to take a quick break from the conversation with Brian to let you know about our 9th annual Buckeye Lake Open we're hosting on Saturday, April 1st. Registration is $100 and will take place at 5 a.m. on Leibs Island Boat Ramp in Millersport, Ohio. All teams should be registered and in the water by 6:30. Boat numbers are assigned by the order in which they are received, and the tournament will run from safe light to 3 p.m. There is a 5-fish limit per team, and normal BASS rules apply. Weigh-ins will take place after trailering. For more information, visit vanceoutdoors.com/Buckeye Lake Open. Thanks, everyone. We hope to see you out there. Now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, getting back to that, 17 was the first year that I had season tickets.
Okay.
And, unfortunately, it didn't go the way that we wanted it to go after Penn State. But that Penn State game, I have that terrible towel still hanging up in my man cave. Whew. That was probably single-handedly one of the best games, I think.
Oh, it's wild.
I mean, and you look back at those guys, Terry, Johnny.
Yep.
I'm probably missing one off the top of my head.
Yeah, Paris.
Yeah,
yep.
Jeez, Paris,
yep.
yeah.
KJ Hill.
KJ.
Ben Vick, yep.
So
Austin
many.
Mack.
Yeah, what a group, man.
Yeah, it was a great group.
Yeah, it made the transition probably to being that intern a little bit easier when you had those horses in the stable, right?
Yeah, the people were awesome, and then, it was awesome. And I think that, being around it and being around, high performance environments, like I said, there were some times where that I felt like that wasn't the case. I felt like I was out here wanting more and I couldn't get more, and that kind of turned me off to the NFL game. Now, I know guys up there want it, but it's just sometimes not happening, just the reality of it, just being frank. So now I'm back in Ohio State, high-performance environment. I loved it. Got me recharged.
Yeah. Yep. So let's move in from 18. Obviously, there was the drama that led you into the position that you kind of are in now.
Yep.
You kind of made the best of that situation. And I think, from my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I think it's definitely a lot better now than what it was when you even walked in. How have you kind of put your fingerprint on it now, especially in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always competing, but I would say that taking over in 18, being the position coach from 18 on, I remember just getting started, and I always keep trying to draw back as a player and my experiences, and I hope I never lose that. I remember when I was in 05, 06, 07, 08, the biggest conversation we always had was, we didn't have crazy stats and we had great, we had some good quarterback play and all that, but it really wasn't, we haven't had a first round quarterback until we got back in these later. So we didn't have it then. But then back in 05 and 06, even before that, the leading receiver at Ohio State was always a first round draft pick. Yeah. And that was our room, whether it be Santonio to Teddy to Gonzo, and then Gonzo and Teddy went in the same year, 2 first rounders, and I just remember recalling that. I'm like, man, I want us to get back to that. Now, I know entering the NFL, because I talk about the NFL. I'm in the NFL. I'm passionate about it.
Sure.
And these guys get a window of 18 to 22, 23, 21 to reach their dreams.
Yeah.
Get one shot. And so, I know the NFL is all about not how you get there, but how long you last.
Sure.
All right. But, man, if they're going to start keeping track, let's not enter. Let's start entering in first round. Let's start off the right way, and not always focus on how long we last, but also focus on let's get back to that. So I remember being motivated by that. I remember, Coach Keenan Bailey, who's now our tight ends coach, was my assistant, and that was the thing I always talked about. Man, we gotta get us back to first round, entries and have that regard and earn that respect regardless of anything. So that was our goal. Chris and Garrett being my first couple guys from recruiting. Yep. Chris Chris started his freshman year when I started. He got in June.
Okay.
I took over in July. So his 4 years was my first guy that I was able to kind of see through, and then Garrett came in my second year.
Yeah.
And so, and then the rest is kind of history, and hopefully over the next 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to see more and more of this come into life.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you can start that even. I mean, not your guy, but you look at like a Terry. I mean, Terry, he just signed a deal.
Yep.
I mean, Terry's the man.
Yeah, it was great. It's a good point because I remember the last year and a half with Terry and just the details in which he wanted to go through and comb his game and what am I missing and his top end mechanics and the efficiency of it and the consistency of it, like just all those conversations. And Terry had, drop issues, but it was more eye tracking issues.
Yeah.
He had poor eye discipline, and he did a great job. Again, as coaches, we suggest players apply. Like if you don't have the player component, I don't care how good of a coach you are.
Yeah.
It's all about the player. Players make stuff happen, not coaches. And so, we're just addressing it, and he's putting in the work on the jugs machine, and just every time he caught a ball, addressing his eye control, and just everything, and you see the byproduct of that.
Exactly.
And, it took him about a year and a half to kind of really fine-tune everything. And now I know he sends me texts all the times, and he's still using a lot of those things we talk about to this day.
Oh, yeah. And I remember when we were talking, when we did the bow, the crossbow for you, I was asking you, like at this point, the room almost recruits itself. Well, I think what you told me is, I just basically don't have to be an asshole.
I think.
But, I mean, there's obviously a component to that, but, it starts from those guys. It starts from the Terrys. It starts from the Johnnies, Paris, all these guys that are doing big things in the league and putting in that work effort.
Yep.
And then Chris and Garrett are certainly no exception.
Yep.
I mean.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I would say that there's probably a lot more guys that want to come that I'm able to take.
Sure.
So, there's a fine line between, finding not the best ones, but the right ones.
Yes.
Because the right ones become the best ones. And, there's a lot of players that go other places, and they're, quote unquote high recruits. I mean, we only get 3 a year, so they're not the only 3 in the country.
Yeah.
So, and I think we've done a really good job with maximizing what the young men are capable of, both from Coach Mariotti on through Coach Day's, the whole staff and everything. And there's so much that goes into it. When I say it takes a village, it takes a village now. So, but, I think we've done a really good job finding the right ones, and then the players have done a phenomenal job maximizing what they're capable of.
Oh, for sure. And it's funny, here he is now talking about this, and this is his gig. I mean, he's the one doing this. But if you go back to the conversation that we had with Jake, Tressel never offered him because, you're great, but let's see if we can find the best one or the right one. And it's like, it's not necessarily finding the 5-star guy that has all the intangibles, but is he going to be the right fit in the room? Is he going to be the right fit for the university? That kind of thing. So you got to definitely balance all that out for sure.
Yep.
Well, cool. I think you got anything on the football side? See, Ben.
I'm not into football.
So
man.
here's the thing. We tell this story just about every time when we have a football player on. But the Akron game where it rained in, was it 21?
Yeah.
21, right?
Yeah.
The Akron game at home. Ben and I are hunting. It was September. Ben and I are hunting. I'm the guy that's like, I love hunting, but Ohio State football has always been.
Just watching it.
The nature of where, dude,
There you go.
So we talked about those saddles earlier, right? So the benefit of the saddle, and for those of you not watching, I got my phone out, but the benefit of the saddle is you got the tree in front of you. Mm-hmm. I'm like this. I'm like, Ben, I just scored a touchdown.
I'm like, there's some deer coming in over here.
And then, I think it rained that game, and we could see the storm coming. I'm like, Ben, it's raining in the stadium. I'm like, it's like direct path.
I think it's coming.
It's coming to us. It's coming to us.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we ended up getting soaked in about a mile walk out. But that's where I'm at it. I mean, I try, and going back, I've only really started hunting, probably steadily since 16.
Yep.
And it's always been because of that. It's, I can't miss Saturday football, right?
Yep.
And so I still struggle with that today. I think this year I recorded, thank God for DVR, right? And I turned my phone off. I don't have a lot of friends that want to talk Ohio State football. Mainly just my wife. And so DVR'd the games this year, spent some time.
Especially the right ones. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
But to your point, like coming out of that fall of 16 is what supercharged me.
Yes.
Right? So that fall, I got some, so much. We get surrounded by sports, man. And I love all my buddies and all that. But I have one of my best friends. Lives down in Woodsfield in Southeast Ohio, and he grew up with it, and I did not grow up with it. And so I started getting the bug then, and whether it be we're going out rabbit hunting, we went out bird hunting. He loves rabbits. I have a bird dog, I have a German short hair, so we like to do bird hunting, and that kind of got me started. So between my father-in-law and then him, I was kind of sandwiched, and I really enjoy hanging out with him and hanging out with my buddy, and it kind of festered, and I mean anywhere we can get into it, anywhere from whitetail to grouse to bird hunting to pheasants to going out west to try to get some elk, maybe a muley. I mean it's been a cool ride and a new addiction that my money really appreciates going towards.
And we love taking it for sure. No, and that's what's cool about it, because I think, all right, so we're into this now. So our connection with Vance, B, who's watching back here, your son, he's on the other side of the camera just chilling. I think he had started either preschool or kindergarten. I think we talked about preschool. He's the same age as my daughter. And, of course, I followed you on Instagram on myself, and as well as the Vance account. And with me, you're taking that over last year. I think it was like the first day picture. And I remember, I was like, oh, have a great year or whatever, because my kid was just starting kindergarten too, or, first day too. So have a great year. And I think you hit us back on that. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, Hartline's following us back. And then so I started getting into it, and I didn't even really realize the outdoor connection. This guy's into the outdoors probably more than both of us. And so, he just doesn't have the time. So we started going through. I'm like, okay, we need to make this into a relationship. And at that time, Schlegel, he's frequent flyer miles here. We had Cardell coming through, with Schlegel hooking him up, Zach, coming in and purchased his first firearm, Jake and all those guys. And so I was like, we need to definitely hook this up, because he's definitely into it. So coming on 16, was that you started hunting Southeast Ohio? You said small game.
Small game, or being with my father-in-law doing bird hunts, things like that. That was kind of the original start. With small game being in whitetail.
So let's get into that. So you started a small game. You got the bug. You were hooked. Did you ever? And I was going to ask you, and I forgot. Did you ever do or get into that? Because Canton, you're in Northeast. You're kind of in the city, but you're not. Nothing.
Okay. Growing up, it was the lake down in Seneca Lake, which was down in Southeast Ohio, south of Cambridge. That's where I met Camden. We became best buds back then, and as we got older, it grew even more. But it was boating, wakeboarding, all that stuff, camping in a camper on a campsite. That was all I did.
That's your outdoor activity. Which is not a bad idea.
Nope.
That's a beautiful lake. That's a beautiful.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
You still go down there?
Oh yeah, we have a house there now.
Awesome.
So no more camper.
I'm sure the wife appreciates it.
Yeah, I think so.
Don't have to rough it so much.
A little more space. Me and her sleeping on like a twin bed.
But let's get into, so you got the small game, you started getting the itch from that. When did you start getting into the whitetail? I know you shot a turkey down there
about the same time. Yeah, about the same time though.
Okay.
It was more pheasants and birds with my father-in-law, and then going down with him, he put me up in some tree stands and get us set up for whitetail. And then, he's a big rabbit guy, so that kind of went in that way. While you're deer hunting, just see it turkey after turkey. So I better grab a turkey tag. So
just did this year, didn't we?
Exactly. Running and gunning in the spring down there was awesome.
That's so much fun.
Oh, dude, so much fun. So that was kind of the opening to everything, and it's built from there.
If I don't need to sell you turkey hunting anymore, you just heard it from Brian.
Dude, turkey hunting's probably the best.
And in Southeast Ohio. So Kurt, who works back here in our archery department, him and I went. And I have been turkey hunting before. I'd gone turkey hunting before, but last season we caught one down there at Jesse Owens State Park. All the AEP land and stuff right underneath the wilds. Dude, I got to see him full strut with like 4 or 5 hens with him. Sunlight coming and hitting him from back.
Dude,
I'm like, I am hooked.
And it's springs. I mean, it's usually beautiful. And like, I remember the cat and we're running around. Like, sorry to be real with you. Guns, guns everywhere. And like, pull over, call down a holler. Get anything? Nope. On to the next one. Boom. Sit down, and we're bouncing around. We got one. And then we figure out where he's at. We're circling around different hollers, and we're going down, trying to bait him out of the woods. I mean, it was just awesome. Laying down in the mud and then just waiting for him to come down a 2-track. I mean, it's been some good stuff.
Dude, I remember going down, even seeing their tracks on the dirt roads down there. It's just like, oh, man. Like, we're on them. We just got to find them. Here, there's nothing better than hearing a bird in the first thing in the morning, man.
And baiting them and trying to get baiting them, calling them in is what I mean. And just, it's awesome.
Yeah. So on the whitetail side. What when did you shoot your first whitetail?
I might have been the fall of 16.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm not good right now with the years as they blend together. But my buddy just had me set up, again, obviously using a bunch of his gear at this time and not doing a whole lot. I think I had my own bow at this time, shooting the Matthews, and then, he's got a stand set up for us. He's using a climber at the time to sit in a near tree and fall asleep, wake up, and then go to town. So I just remember, it was frankly, I got a pretty nice buck, and I didn't even know what that meant at the time.
Yeah, sure.
It's amazing. The more and more you hunt, the more and more you appreciate it all. And now I've really enjoyed the gameskeeper kind of thing and the prep and the food plots. And you want to talk about gun expense? How about the machinery expense?
Oh my gosh!
So the rabbit hole is real. But I really enjoyed all that and keep catching them on camera and seeing with the deer around and then trying to cat and mouse the right one. And when they get that old, because they're not dumb. So you're playing those games and you're playing the win game. It's just the strategic approach to everything is just the most fun.
Do you think you find more athletes? And I asked this question to Jake. Like, you have that competitive drive in you, right? You want to outsmart a player, but now you're taking that competitive drive and you're putting it towards something else. And do you feel like athletes tend to gravitate towards hunting when they get out because they have that that adrenaline rush or that sense?
I mean, I think you probably correlate it to golf. I mean, if you want to get, I'd rather do this than golf, and I'm sure from a money standpoint, it's probably similar. So I guess it's, I guess I would golf if my son wanted to golf. I don't know. I really enjoy the family environment. I really enjoy him being able to do it with me. I don't know. I enjoy my hands in the dirt. And I don't know. So I think painting a picture and having it come to life is pretty cool too. And
it's awesome to see the work that you put in. Big bucks aren't killed in the fall; they're killed in the spring and the summer when you're putting in the work, right? And I think I remember seeing some pictures before we got connected. You were putting in. You were putting in the food plots and stuff. I'm like, man, he's like the real deal. Like, he's like having food plots put in. He's got his redneck blind up. He's fully invested into it for sure. Let's get into our connection. You had hit me up on Instagram. I think it's funny enough. You were riding your little pit bike, I think.
Oh yeah.
You?
Yep.
And I was like, rip it, man.
Yep.
So you're getting into the dirt bike game a little bit. B's getting his dirt bike once you leave today, so that's going to be pretty awesome.
Iron Pony, appreciate the help.
Iron Pony, the Iron Pony's been great. That's where my son's got all his stuff at too. So I'm looking for a sponsorship. No,
But no, I mean, what you're hitting on though too is like we got blessed. We got an opportunity. We came back in 15 or 16. We were living in a neighborhood, and there was a piece of land that was available for sale. And we decided that we had it was a nice house and biggest house I've ever lived in. And but it was on a half acre, and I'm like, man, like
fun.
I see, this price tag. I'm like, this is nice, it's beautiful, but like, can we get like less house and like more land? Like, can we restructure this with the same amount? So we came across a 7-acre piece, but surrounded the 7 acres was the ability to potentially, if this farm sold, buy more. Yeah. And so we decided to make that change, and we had to build a house because it was just a 7-acre piece of land. And this was before Braden, actually the house got finished as my son was being born. So it all worked out that way. But this all happening prior to coaching. We all kind of did all this in 16. And then when I started coaching, thank goodness all the house decisions, a lot of that was done because we didn't have the time for it. But we ended up then 6 months after that, 7 acres. And then we were like, okay, this farm's now for sale. And it's they're selling different pieces. We decided, okay, how much are we willing to spend? Like, what's the number I get, babe? How much money do I get to buy as much land as possible? So trust me, I pushed that threshold. We got that threshold, and now we have like 60 acres in Powell.
That's awesome.
For that area and watching it explode around us. I mean, we get letters in the mail every day like, "Are you willing to sell your land? Do you want to sell your land?" I'm like,
I'm sure, especially with everything.
If I sell this land, I'm not coaching anymore, and I'm out. I'm going to be in Southeast Ohio with my own 200 acres and building a house. But the point is, between the hunting, between the dirt bikes and 4-wheelers,
exactly,
and our woods walks to find sheds. We found a deadhead last night and a half a shed, or a one-sided shed. So those are the things we enjoy, and as a family, we do all that together. So it's a lot of fun.
It's awesome. Yeah, especially when you start getting the kids involved, man. Like, there's nothing that's really changed my drive. Like, if you had any sense of your drive for being outdoors kind of waning, having kids and getting them to the age that he is and like my daughter is, and they're like, okay, I don't have to carry him so much. They can walk, they can look. Like, it makes it that much more
you got to
fun.
play it. Like I walked over the shed. I'm like, oh, yeah, come on, find it. Boom. He finds it, hooked.
Dude,
you know,
yep.
So we're playing the game. And, but, I mean, like even this spring, the first time I have not gone out spring on my land for turkey. And my father-in-law came out. He posted up on a tree probably 20 yards from us, and he was calling for us.
Yeah.
And me and him were sitting in the ground blind. I think we had a 180 open view.
Sure.
Those blinds are pretty sweet.
They
so
are.
We're posted up, and we last probably 45 minutes to an hour until he's like, Dad, are we done yet? And then we're getting close. I'm like, yeah, we're getting done. Let's go. So I shot my father-in-law a text like, hey, I think we're about done. And out of nowhere, I mean, right? It just came in. We're like, heck yeah. And they came out of the ravine, a bunch of them. And then you heard it again. And he banged the decoy. Boom, took one down. Great turkey, great male. And now he's hooked.
Oh, yeah.
Got him. Damn, when we going again. So being blessed with those opportunities that come to fruition, I mean, hopefully he's hooked in for sure.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, man,
Yeah,
it gives you a completely new sense of like now you're seeing the woods through a 5-year-old's eyes, and there's nothing.
He's got to think it's huge. I'm like, babe, we need more. Like this isn't big enough, And he's like, gosh, man, Dad, this is a long walk. I'm like, so it's pretty cool.
Well, and you have two other kids, right? Now?
Yeah, we got a 3-year-old daughter and then an 11-month-old boy. So we'll we're getting going again.
You're just gonna keep it going, yes. And so I'm glad we're on that family dynamic too, because we had just talked before we got started. You went shed hunting, you found the deadhead and found the shed for him, but you guys also as a family went out and did some coyote hunting this last night. Yeah.
Yep.
So we were checking out all the scopes over there, and he was like, he's hooked on coyote hunting too. We have a coyote tournament coming up this weekend.
Is it okay?
This weekend, baby.
I know there's one down in Woodsfield as well.
Yes.
The 3rd, I think, and the 4th. So we talked about my buddy down there, getting down there potentially, but that's also the combine. So now I'm like, yeah, Jackson, I'm coming to see. But then I'm like, so am I going to Indy and then just going straight through picking stuff up in Columbus to go to maybe a 4-hour trip? But he'll love it. My buddy's got what is he now rowing, like a 7 and 4 maybe, something like that. So he's
relative age.
Yep. But they're also having a baby here in this week, so I don't know what's going to happen. Anyways, but yeah, we went out last night and shout out Pulsar. Appreciate you guys, man, because those thermal binos we had ripping last night were awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
So now I'm interested because there would be no way my wife would come sit in a redneck blind with me.
Yeah, she did.
She did.
Oh yeah.
Using those binos.
She sat there and had absolutely.
Oh, she loved it. It's a toy.
100%. Now I'm sitting here like, do I need two pairs? Because she's got one. He wants to see it. I'm like sitting over here like looking through a scope. Like it's okay, but I'm like, these are awesome. Yeah. So especially when you're on a tripod, I'm like, I'm kind of limited right here to check out everything. But it was fun.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Fun.
But let's get into so you're hunting out your blind.
Yep.
We had a funny story about the blind. So we put you right here. Going back to our connection with Brian here. So we put you here, and you had reached out to us and you said, I want a 10-point crossbow, which we're like, sure. Like we actually just won. What was the 10-point award that we just got? Was it dealer? Top 10 dealer?
Top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah.
Top 5 national dealer.
Yep.
So
I love the compounds, but it just requires time.
Which is what you said.
It's tough.
Yeah. So Schlegel, don't hate on him too much, buddy. He's got a little bit less time than you.
And listen, I get it because I felt the same way. Like these things are so good now. Like frankly, they're almost like a gun. Like, they're so good. Don't get me wrong, they are.
Yeah,
for him, he's gonna want it.
Yeah.
And for my time, I feel more guilty wounding a deer versus practicing and having my compound.
Yep.
I'd rather just do it the right way for the deer's respect.
Yeah.
So.
Isn't it awesome that he said that? So we went up. I don't know if you know this, but Ben and I went up to 10 Point, and we did a podcast with them. They gave us a factory tour, right there in Mogador.
Gotcha.
So not too far from hometown.
Not too far. Nope.
Yeah, and so we had Randy Wood. I don't remember Randy's title, but he was basically our chauffeur, if you will, up there. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because we're in the TikTok game, but we posted this video of Randy talking on TikTok about. The crossbow is perfect for the guy like Braden, like yourself, who has no time. You get that one. You can visualize him hearing it right now. You get that one opportunity in October when you can go hunt. This is this is you.
Literally.
This is literally you. And it's just so funny how that Randy said that was last summer. Mm-hmm. Here we are in February, and you're telling me the same exact thing. And so when you reached out, we were like, absolutely, of course. I told my boss, I said, hey, like Brian wants a crossbow. And he's like, go. I'm like, all right, cool. So Ben and I came down. We got one of the Havocs off the rack here. We took it over to the archery range. It's probably 5 miles down the road from us, the fish hatchery. You probably see it from the freeway. And we got it all sighted in for you. We actually used the Morel target.
Which was a huge help. I mean, God, honestly, like, here you go. Like, thanks.
Yeah, I literally,
if it wasn't sighted in, then it's like, okay, now I got to find some time to actually sight this thing in, which is going to put me back.
We had 2 arrows touching each other at 40 yards. I was like, okay, if he can't kill something,
we're good.
That's on him, not me.
Yes.
And so we ended up dropping it off. That was on Wednesday. We dropped it off on Thursday. This was in October.
Yep.
And
13th.
The 13th. Yep, we just talked about it. Yeah. So you had a bye week. You were headed out to recruit. I remember you were saying, hey, I need this. I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to get you? And you were like, here's my credit card stuff. Like, take care of it. Cool. We ended up dropping it off of the Woody, which Ben can attest to. When we pulled up to the Woody, I'm like, all right, where the hell am I going? Like, we parked over there on a corner on the Shoemaker complex on the opposite corner.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, I'm going to meet, like, campus police is going to
be
after me.
sketchy walking through
I'm like,
the crossroads.
Especially in this day.
So especially in this day and age. I mean, all this stuff happening. And so I kind of held it low, and then you walked out. I'm like, oh, thank God.
We're good.
And it wasn't like his truck was hard to find either.
Yep.
So we were like, okay, there he is. Cool. I'm like, here you go. You pointed. Campus police isn't going to arrest Brian.
Right.
I'll be gone. Like, they'll be gone. I'll have to, he'll be my one phone call. But, we dropped it off. You were super stoked about it, and I mean, it's a great bow. We got everything set up. We got your broadheads all hooked up, arrows, the whole thing. And then, lo and behold, this guy who just showed us a picture killed a buck that night.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That night with it.
That night.
How awesome!
Couldn't help it. It was awesome. You know, I mean, it probably ran not even 50 yards, if that. 40 yards. Went against a tree, went down a ravine. So I had a great time dragging that thing out. But it was awesome. You know, it was right at sundown, and actually, it figures. It's so nice being. I get all the way to the blind. I got everything set up. I'm good. Obviously, a new toy, making sure I know everything's going right. It's right.
Yep.
No broadheads. Oh, that's good. Oh, really good. So now what I'm going to do, climb out. Now I call my wife. I'm like, hey, babe, do me a solid.
Oh, you didn't?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Get in the Ranger. Please, just throw them out as you run by. I'm going to grab them because I'm like, I got in early enough to let everything settle, and now I was like, right now, I just got in. Bust over here. They're kind of, we're in Powell.
Yeah,
They're used to urban, people being around this, So.
Oh, for sure.
But we buzzed through it. She dropped it off, fired it up. I was good to go. So yeah, right at sundown, had a good opportunity. Again, limited time. Nice 8-point offset a little bit, and he went 50 yards maybe.
I love it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's funny that he said that because I remember you were sending me text, and you're like, you showed me some deer that were feeding in, and I was like, smoke it, man. He's like, I ain't got time for a doe tonight. He's like, I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, because I'm going out the next morning like I'm out of town. I'm like, I'll make it worth my while. I'm good for the meat, but right now I'm kind of like, hey, this might be my only shot. Let's see.
Exactly. And I was like, hey, man, to each your own. If I was only hunting, this guy hunted one day with a crossbow that we built. I'm claiming that deer. I'm going to go ahead and put my name on the antler. So, and got it done. So that's awesome, though. But again, that just shows to how well. I mean, there was some setup in terms of what we had for the setup. It was actually pretty easy.
It was easy.
I think we shot
easy to set up.
We shot it at 5 yards, and then I think at 20.
Does that Garmin come with the one shot sight? I forget if it does on setup. You guys would know. I didn't set it up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back.
You made a comment on how quick it happened, though.
It was. I mean, it took probably
20 minutes total
it was
to set it up.
5 shots, I think, total, just for the sake. And Ben and I, we're when it comes to archery stuff, we're extremely particular.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want it to leave until we were stacking arrows on top of each other. And so I'm like, listen, Brian's gonna get this. I don't need a text message at 7:30. How the hell is this working? Or him shooting a deer wrong because we helped him out. And so
it was awesome, man.
So I wanted to make sure that was definitely set up. So no, but that just goes back to the testament of just how crossbows aren't for everybody, and I'm not here to say that they are, but in your situation, you got it done. By you being able to buy a crossbow and use it, it gave you the opportunity to be outside. And as a vendor of crossbows and all bows and all hunting stuff, that's all I want you to do, man. I just want you to be outside.
Yeah, I would say it's the biggest, starter for a young kid. I mean, I have enthusiasts that I talk to and enjoy doing stuff with. Still, they're kids.
Yep.
Start with a crossbow. I
mean,
because they can start earlier, and that's what it's all about: being outside with your family and having them involved instead of just watching. And they're able to get involved at a younger age with something like that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, it's cool. Well, before we let you go, on special guest,
Yes.
I didn't set you up with any of this before. We usually ask a few rapid fire questions.
I like it.
All right. How's it sound? Let me pull my phone out. I got Ben one here real fast, but
I've got one right off the bat.
Okay.
right off the bat. Before you do that, I'm gonna let you. Cade Stover, text message right now.
Yep.
Ask Coach if he's gonna throw me the ball next year.
Ask me if he's going to get open.
Cade, get open, and I'm sure either Kyle or Devin will find you, buddy. All right.
Yep. There you go.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, so if you had one dream hunt you could pick to go anywhere, where's that hunt?
It's a good question. You know, I wasn't too far off from doing it. So in 16, again, jamming it all together, my buddy and I went out and truly backpacked, and we stayed in Idaho outside of Bear Lake. And found some guys. I actually bought my dog off of him, and he took us out there, and we were on the mountain, and we were in tents, and we were in, sleeping bags so we didn't freeze at night. Like, we had to buy all this gear, right? I mean, it was legit. I mean, I'm eating like outer space food and like everything, right?
Freeze-dried meal.
Oh my gosh! And I didn't realize how good that stuff was. When you walk 15 miles a day up mountains, it was amazing actually. But we went elk hunting, and it was all bow, and our success rate in that area was like low. We knew that, didn't care. It bled into muleys actually too. We made sure we had a muley tag and an elk tag, and we went out and we didn't get an elk. We had some great action. We had some great calling, but we did not get an elk. I would say elk hunting. Particular area, I don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a more successful unit than the one we were in, but that experience, the whole part, like I don't want to be necessarily in a dude ranch. I want to be like, on the mountain, on a cot, and really doing it the right way and hunting for all that. So I did do it. Was not successful. Did not harvest a great animal. We did get a muley, a doe, so that was pretty cool. But
sure,
I would like to do that again. To answer your question,
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
awesome.
awesome. Yeah,
I tell you who else wants to go. I don't know if he'll rough it as much as you do. Cardell.
Yep.
Cardell. He mentioned that to us too. I
Yeah,
think he wants to go to help him.
And I'm open to the idea of long range rifle for elk, but I love the to get within 60 yards of an elk and try to get that done. It's pretty unheard of. So
all the rush would be insane.
Gosh.
Screaming right in front
The
of you.
adrenaline. Oh yeah.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I couldn't.
I
mean,
I'd be shaking.
Here to the Liberty sign. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
I'd like to try that again.
All right. Going in, Ben has that was on one of my lists here. Yep. So going back, either as a coach or as a player, if you had to pick one moment from Ohio State, what would it be?
Ooh. As a favorite?
Mm-hmm. Because you got to remember, he wasn't there for the national championship.
I mean, 01-02, or I'm sorry, number 1 versus number 2 in 06 versus Team Up North.
Yep.
Electric. I mean, I remember to this day not being too far. Frankly, for Sean Cramble helping us out when he hit Troy Smith out of bounds on third down when we were incomplete.
Yes.
And he came sliding to my feet-ish area. I'm like, that's a penalty. We got a penalty, went down and scored. I remember that. I would say, as of late, the games against Clemson were awesome.
Battles.
They're battles. They were great. And, even being up a Team Up North with Justin and coming back from being injured and finding Garrett in the back of the end zone. Some of those memories stick in my mind. But you cannot forget, I would say, from a regular season game, the Penn State games as of late, with, whether it be in Happy Valley with Terry McLaurin and Ben Vick running all over the field, with everyone blocking them. And
KJ.
Yeah, and KJ blocking and scoring, and KJ catching the swing, and Terry blocking 2 guys and scoring. And then inadvertently kind of doing the same thing the year before, you know, in our own place. So, or vice versa. I forget. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
It was our place first, and then it was at their place. So those are probably the ones that catch off on me. Frankly, for whatever reason, the player side doesn't resonate as much as it is coach.
Yeah.
Because I just see these other guys living it, and that just hits me different than it being me in a moment.
Sure. It kind of goes back to being the dad too, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you're proud of these kids, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you know how much work they put into it.
Yeah, and my peers and my coaches too, and all that. As an individual, it's not as much as it is as a collective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny that you mentioned Justin too, because he was just on I think it was a Barstool podcast. I don't know if you caught that.
I know, probably
not. Last weekend or whatever, and And he was talking about how, on that Clemson game, like he was prepared to die that day.
You can tell the way he played.
Yeah.
I mean, we see clips today. It's like, didn't matter. But, gosh, I wouldn't say that's the only game. I mean, it was probably that Team Up North game felt the same way.
The pass to Garrett was electric. That was because the season was over at that point. Like, you saw him get hurt. And
you're like, nervous.
Yeah.
Just nervous.
And literally the next play, he throws like a 35, 40-yard pass right to the – I mean, he couldn't have picked a better spot.
Right. It's not that CJ couldn't take over and fit it.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just different.
For sure.
So.
All right, you kind of lead me into my next point. I think you might answer. You've already answered this question, but your favorite away stadium for a college? Let me hit you with a two-part. Let me hit you with the college. Let me hit you with the NFL.
Well, I would say it's whatever the most hostile environment you could see. I think as of right now, as of late, us versus Georgia down there in the Georgia Dome, I think that's what it's called, was awesome. We're in their backyard. It was electric. I mean, obviously we were on the wrong side of that point, but I love when it's you against literally everybody, and that's probably been the most recent. Obviously, the next ones you would find would be Team Up North and probably at Happy Valley. Those would be the next ones that would fall in line.
Yeah, it's funny because to me as a fan, I've never been to Happy Valley. I've always heard bad things about the fans for Happy Valley. I mean, it shouldn't keep me from going because that stadium and that environment is unique. I mean, there's nothing.
Well,
I'm
sure
it.
there's stories about that with us.
Oh, for sure,
Come to the shoe, I'm sure.
for sure.
Not everyone's a saint.
Yeah,
so.
and as a relatively late with Michigan, you look at like the Zeke game up there. What would that have been? 15. 60% of the stadium was Ohio State fans at one point. I mean, and then but now the tide's kind of switched a little bit. But
get that fixed.
Yeah, we got to definitely get that fixed. All right, going back to Deer Woods. Favorite snack. Everybody likes a little Debbie from time to time. What's Brian taking to his snack?
Oh man, snacks. Well, I love candy, so I don't always take candy out there. I would say for a reason, like I like the oh my gosh, what are they called? It's a bar, but it's like a. I like the Kind bars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know why. It's like they're good, but they're not that good.
Like an RX bar kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
And granola, Cliff
bar.
Cliffs.
Cliff
bars.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm. The white macadamian. For whatever reason.
That's fire.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's like I'm going hunting. I need my macadamian.
Oh, for
bar.
sure.
What the heck's wrong with me? But no, that's a good one.
I'll pack the peanut butter one every once in a while. Those are good too.
They're good.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, I'll end you on this last point.
Yep.
So we talked about hunting. We talked about football. What is Brian Hartline's favorite hobby to do outside of those things?
Of hunting and football? Gosh. What's my third most enjoyable time? I really enjoy anything at this point that would be deemed normal. So, like, I really enjoy going to my son's now basketball games. I really enjoy, being around some extended family. The lake. I guess if I had to pick one, like being on the lake and being, with our boat and wakeboarding and wake surfing and just that lake environment, by a campfire, having a cigar, that would I could do that time and time and time and time again.
Oh, for sure.
Lake time, by a campfire, grilling food. Like that is my favorite.
Just being a guy.
That general past, exactly right.
Just being, taking all the fancy big lights and stuff.
No,
just throwing it to the side and being.
There's going to be a time, and hopefully we'll stay connected, but the vast majority of us won't. There's going to be a time where it's going to be like, where did Hart go? Because I'm going to be on 200 plus acres in the middle of nowhere, just showing up to Vance's to get my stuff, and then back to my property for all of the things you just talked about. And the football part will be enjoyed on a television.
That's the part.
Oh yeah, one day.
Awesome.
One day, so.
Well, man, thank you for taking the time. I know you don't live too close, and you got to make the trip back to Columbus here to get little man his dirt bike. But
and you're busy.
And you're super busy. Yeah, I couldn't have picked a person that had a busier schedule than him.
Yeah.
Luckily, you were off today with President's Day. So, again, man, thanks for making the trip. I'm glad we got to show you the shop a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having the show in the shop. This was very enjoyable for me.
Yeah, all this stuff is available for purchase.
Yeah, exactly. And I figured that was what I was going to say. The last thing I would say is that's what I said. Like, when do we get a closed down store shopping spree with a guide?
I tell you what,
I could do some serious damage in here.
Your guide is one Mr. Anthony Frederick Schlegel.
Let's go, Anth. Get a closed down shop with an open register. Let's see what we can do here.
He cracks me up, man.
I think we do a good job.
Awesome. So. Well, again, man, thanks for taking the time to come over, and we appreciate you having on.
Yep, thank you.
All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We really hope you enjoyed that conversation with Brian. As you can imagine, Brian has an extremely busy schedule with everything that he has going on with his role at Ohio State, and we really appreciate him taking the time to swing out over to our Hebron store and talking with us. Just as a reminder, moving forward, we will be switching to a bi-weekly schedule, so our next episode release will be on March 14th. And as always, we appreciate you guys listening, and until next time, enjoy the pursuit.